Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this tournament showdown. It's going to be Khorne, led by Boss Toss, facing off against Nurgle, who shall be helmed by Hobo Honkers here on the Jade Tomb. And this may be deja vu for some of you folks, because this is a replay from one of our SFTs we had about a week ago, but it was such a wild game with such a weird build, I figured it deserved its own video. Now, taking a look here at the Nurgle army here, it is going to be a couple Plague Bears down on the ground with 4 units of the Beast of Nurgle. So these are single entity Nurgle monsters that regenerate, have respectable combat stats and armor piercing, and do have a debuff with the Slime Trail. Now, this is really off meta because historically Beasts of Nurgle have been considered to be pretty bad. They really only had niche applications in matchups like Vampire Counts, for example, where you would stack one with your army when you're trying to really just get a ton of debuffs and blob fights. But having 4 of them, the upside of that being is that, they do have almost 7,000 HP, 6.3, and they do heal. So it's just a lot of healing you have on the battlefield. So if you can use them as like Walmart damage sponges that have some fighting capability, your other assets in your army can shine potentially. We'll have to see. I mean, this is really hard to remove off an objective for sure, for Khorne as well, right? You got 4 of those bad boys. So it's going to be Plague Bears with the 4 Beasts of Nurgle, and the Exalted Plague Bear is really quite good here. It gives you some range damage to poke back with. And 2 Plague Bears going to be heading to the objective here, and it is going to be a Nurgle Sorcerer Lord who is going to be rocking the Curse of the Leper. So the reason why you bring Curse of the Leper here is twofold. If you're fighting Wrathmongers and they're fighting one of your units, you use it and it's going to, return a lot of damage to them. Or if it's a Nurgle Fury versus a Khorne Fury, it's going to let your Nurgle Fury decisively win. Now, the only thing I dislike about this ability in general is that when you get to really high level play, like super sweaty tournaments, you're playing top players like, these two, for example. Most of the Khorne players are going to be able to disengage as soon as they see the spell cast because you can't see it. It's a little bit obvious, right? So that's my only kind of issue with it, I suppose. So for Boss Toss, it's going to be very meta anti-Nurgle stuff. Basically spamming out a whole bunch of Marauder Horsemen, which Nurgle can't really interact with super effectively. Using a couple Skull Cannons, but this is off meta for sure. The Knights of the Brazen Throne and a Motorcycle Herald of Khorne with the Tormentor Sword. So 1 Fury does come in and immediately gets Blitzkrieg bopped in the face, going to be getting nailed by the Hellforged Bellowers, while the Horsemen going to be feasting on the Plague Bears here in the back. So the Plague Bears going to be getting it pretty good, and what's really nice about these throwing axes is they have fire damage. So against Nurgle healing, that's very relevant, but also against Nurgle Marauders and low-tier units, they do have anti-infantry and really good weapon strength. So they can actually get in there and kill Marauders of Nurgle if they're able to, charge them in the back or something like that. The Knights of the Brazen Throne, a pretty cool unit. They can definitely run down most Nurgle infantry, but will not have a good time if they get tar pitted by the Beasts of Nurgle, that is for sure. So out of the gates, a bit of damage going to be going down here. You see the Plague Bears getting a little bit chewed up, as are these Furies. Furies going to be disengaging here. Skull Cannon shooting in, but Nurgle is inevitable. And these Beasts of Nurgle, that is going to be a lot to deal with. We got 4 Beasts of Nurgle. I've never seen this build. Apparently this build was coined by Scrambled Egg Special, and it was now being used by Hobo Honkers here in this tournament match. Up at the sky, we do see the Chaos Furies getting afflicted by Tormentor Sword. So see, that's what I'm talking about. Really good play, by the way, from Boss Toss. Basically, he gets the fight, he baits out the Winds of Magic, which is going to be used on the Furies, and it's just going to be completely wasted. And then he uses a Tormentor Sword to make sure they can't follow up in combat. That was a really clean execution, because Furies aren't cheap. They're, like 650 or 600 or something like that, so it's pretty pricey. But looking at the build here, aside from the throwing axes, there's not a whole lot in this army that's going to be good against the Beasts of Nurgle, right? This thing is an anti-infantry chariot, which is okay against big targets with its 48 melee attack, but against Beasts of Nurgle, it's going to take like 5,000 years to get a kill there. Now, in the front, we do finally see an engagement from the Knights of the Brazen Throne. Beautiful charge there by the Khornate Doggos. The Bulldog Cavalries, they get in and do run over some of the Plague Bears. On the back, Exalted Plague Bears were standing nearby trying to form ranks, and some throwing axes of Nurgle do now come out. So Nurgle is, of course, taking a beating out of the gates, but still, they do have the objectives. Looking at the points right now, Nurgle's going to be sitting at 56 points against 291 for the forces of Khorne, and a bit of a mistake here from Hobo Honkers. He overextends pretty badly with the Beasts of Nurgle trying to chase down the Herald of Khorne, and, losing these things, they are replaceable, but, you don't want to be just giving your opponent free shit here. So Beast of Nurgle does manage to get away, and now it is going to be the Minotaurs of Khorne on their way in, which I think 4 Beasts of Nurgle would probably beat a Minotaur of Khorne. I think they would be able to get the job done there. Throwing axes of Nurgle here, trying to get some throwing value here on the Hellforged Bellowers, and they do get some work done, but are going to be forced back by some of the counterfire from the Khornate Horsemen. On the backside, Marauders are now going to be the call-in. More Furies are descending in, and they are going to be landing in, most likely trying to bait out ammunition. The Beast of Nurgle does live, and look, this thing has a lot of room before its healing cap, so that Beast of Nurgle, in theory, could get like pretty much to full health if it just kind of sits in the back. So You are going to be retreating to the objective, and Nurgle is going to be using its beloved Wimplo face-to-foot style, where you just get punched in the wiener enough times, and then your opponent runs out of steam, and, you know, the old Homer Simpson. If you guys watched The Simpsons back in the day, it's like the boxing episodes where Homer Simpson just, like, tires out his opponents by letting them punch him in the face. Plague Bears here get charged, and really nice usage of the Knights of the Brazen Throne. They have anti-infantry, and they hit incredibly hard. Very, very good counter against Plague Bears, and I believe they also do magic damage. Let me go ahead and double check that. They do not. It's only fire damage, so they're not going to be circumventing that physical resist. Nonetheless, though, Khorne has been having a problem pushing up on the objective. They just really, really are afraid of these Beasts of Nurgle and have not been making a play to move in there, which is absolutely hilarious. And you'll see a lot of damage going down in the Herald of Khorne. That was the unholy hand grenades coming in from the Exalted Plague Bearers and also the Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle, I believe, in the Rot Beast. Was able to get some good charges. So Plague Bearers and Marauders going to be hanging out in the wings, and the Beasts of Nurgle are just healing, right? So a lot of the value you do see from Bastos here, you know, much of it is on the Beasts of Nurgle here, and they're going to be healing a lot of that DPS, which is quite funny. Chaos Sorcerer, though, getting trapped up by the Minotaurs, and if they are able to get in there, potentially going to be a death here on the Chaos Sorcerer, so he's going to need to get away, and there's a bit of an opening. So that's one of the downsides of playing from outer space, is you can't really see openings like this, but clearly Hobo Honkers zoomed in this position, and is going to be able to find a way out of that box right there. Plague Bears moving into grind, and a good call in here from Boss Boss. It is going to be Skull Reapers. So Skull Reapers are an anti-demon unit, basically. They have 61 melee attack with magic damage and bonus versus infantry. So the weakness is if they're facing armor, but demons don't really present armored infantry, so Skull Reapers become pretty good there. But the blob fight with the Beasts of Nurgle probably will go in the favor of the demons here, as the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle going to be dropping a little bit of Witchcraft. Looks like he was casting a spell. Maybe it was like a Stream of Corruption or something. I didn't quite see where he cast that, but no, he's just going to be chilling, and the Skull Reapers are going to be forced back. In the meantime, the Knights of the Brazen Throne still very healthy, but now going to be charging into combat once again. Just got to watch out for the Beasts of Nurgle. The Slug Toll is here, leaving a slime trail, which is pretty great. Creative Assembly definitely does a really good job with all the animations and art stuff there. It's pretty great. Pulling back are the Hellforged Bellowers, so those bad boys going to be retreating back here. While the Horsemen of Khorne continue gathering, running down some of the overextending Plague Bearers, but even still, Nurgle is holding on to the objectives. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in the game here, very, very soon, Nurgle is going to be passing Khorne on the objectives, as now we do see Plague Ogres being called in. So Plague Ogres are a solid choice against what we're seeing on the field, right? Because we're seeing a lot of Khornate Minotaurs and Horsemen and various bigger threats that the Ogres are going to be a very nice supplement against. Some of the Exalted Plague Bears did overextend a little bit, you know, trying to get those unholy hand grenades on the Lord, and they are now going to be getting run down by the Knights of the Brazen Throne. Granted, they are tanking it well, considering the circumstances, and buying some time for the Marauder Horsemen throwing axes to get some DPS into them. And the Knights of the Brazen Throne have lost a handful of models, and the Plague Bearers have gotten how much value? About 900 value so far, which isn't bad. Now, eventually, Khorne is going to have to make a play for this objective, because, you know, they're going to be getting past here in the next 10 seconds or so. In the back, we do see Nurgling RORs being called in. And the question is Khorne going to go for the back objective? Certainly wouldn't be a terrible idea, but that's what's kind of cool about the strategy we're seeing from Hobo Honkers, the face-to-foot style, is that his entire build is just, you know, like attacking two Plague Bear units is really not ideal either. So it's presenting your opponent with a bit of a conundrum. When they run out of ammunition on all of their, you know, skull cannons and their horsemen, they're going to be forced in to fight the inevitable threat that is Nurgle. And Nurgle is very much all about entropy and inevitability and that sort of thing, right? So it's very, very good flavor. So Plague Bear is chilling out of the point. The Skull Cannon going to be getting into combat. The Skull Cannon is currently exhausted, which means its armor is 83, its melee defense is 17. So Plague Bears can definitely kill it if it just sits there and doesn't cycle charge, right? So we'll keep tabs on that. Now back on the point, a couple Battletoads are called in. And the Battletoads don't quite make it over, and it looks like it's going to be some Chaos Knights of Khorne being called out with lances. They get a really nice charge and start to do some respectable damage on the Battletoads. The Battletoad's going to be getting a Curse of the Leper, maybe? Let's go ahead and see what's cooking here. Do we see Curse of the Leper? We do not. Oh, okay, he casts it on the Marauder Horseman, which isn't a terrible idea, considering they are in combat there. We'll be giving him some armor and letting him reflect some of the damage. Now over on the objective, Khorne going to be moving up a couple horsemen. Their Minotaurs here are also pressing with the Knights of the Brazen Throne, working through these Plague Bearers. Furies of Nurgle are called out, most likely going to be using them to shut down some of the horsemen. But blob fighting Nurgle is not great. The Chaos Knights get obliterated in combat by the 4 Beasts of Nurgle and Plague Ogres, so the big Plague Ogres, Tamarkontomis, are able to get in with their big beat sticks and do quite a bit of damage, but the Slugs are really just not folding, man. It's hard to get through them. No Wrathmongers for Khorne. We're not seeing Wrathmongers. I wonder how they would do against these guys. Skull Reapers, of course, do the magic damage, so even though they're anti-infantry, they can still connect and do some work, but you really need focused DPS to drag down these Beasts of Nurgle. The objective, though, in the meantime, does flip the boss toss, but we do see Hobo Honkers pulling a value lead. On the other side, Nurgle is holding pretty well. The 2 Plague Bears actually able to kill one of the motorcycles, so yeah, it looks like that motorcycle that was in the Plague Bears over here did try and retreat, and then it was headed off by some of the horsemen, so that's a huge pick right there. Skull Reaper is going to be chilling on objective number 3, and this objective is now being fought over, and we're going to have a big, ugly blob fight, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle, the Plague Bearers, but the 4 Beasts of Nurgle, Battletoads, and the Plague Ogres probably will have an advantage here. Horn of Khorne activated, going to be buffing up the Khornate units, and Khorne does have some nice buffs too. The Herald of Khorne himself does have the Totem of Endless Bloodletting, so nearby units are going to be getting buffs from him as well. There it is right there, so it's going to be 8 melee attack. But even still, I mean, I think Nurgle's cackling a little bit harder here. The Fecundity, the Curse of the Leper, the Beasts of Nurgle are also debuffing the stat line. The Throwing Axes, though, are probably doing a lot of damage, but it's a very messy melee. Looks like they are throwing into the Plague Ogres and are able to get the break. On the back, Nurgle is going to be calling in Exalted Plague Bears for their anti-large grenades, and Nurgle is also going to be pressing the home objective, which is a good idea. Khorne, the Skull Reapers would probably lose to all of this, but they would trade very well. Skull Reapers here are currently going to be sitting at 43 kills as they butcher these Marauders. Well, this is smart. Nurgle, might be losing value out on this position, but just getting the Plague Bears up, putting them to use on this map, I think is brilliant, and we'll see how this fight goes. This is really going to be the big determining fight, though. If Nurgle can win this one, then certainly going to be a very contested game, if not Nurgle favored there. So, Beasts of Nurgle still feasting. The Minotaurs of Khorne getting worn down here, and we do see 1, 2, 3 beasts are in good shape. I believe one of them did get killed by the throwing weapons. The Plague Ogres did get routed off, but overall they are holding firm. And now the Exalted Plague Bears with the Death's Heads going to be throwing in, but Boss Toss with a nice response. There it goes, and does do a lot of damage against those Minotaurs right there. They took a lot of HP damage, but the Furies are going to be getting sent in. So basically just a distraction, but the Plague Bears can go in guard mode and ignore them if they want to. And it looks like that's going to be the case. So Hobo is going to be ignoring that, getting a beautiful volley right there into the Minotaurs and buying the Beasts of Nurgle some much needed time to heal. So I think, no, we actually still have all 4 beasts, okay? Not a single one has been killed. Nurgle going to be calling out a couple of Furies, and on the back objective looks like Khorne is going to be going for a ninja play, so they do have their Fleshhounds of Khorne. A couple of Nurglings going to be trying to chase them. In the meantime, it looks like Nurgle was able to take their opponent's home objective, so the Khorne objective does go to Nurgle. And over here on the side, still very contested, but it looks like the Blood God is starting to slowly lose ground. The Exalted Plague Bear is going to be waddling up to the point, and they do have 7 capture weight, being an elite infantry unit, which is very, very cool. So, Skull Reapers here are steady, but soon going to be getting worn down. The Beasts of Nurgle are hanging in there, and the Knights of the Brazen Throne are pretty much out of steam. They do have 13 models, but are looking very beat up. And Curse of the Leper is going to be activated. So the Furies finally going to be getting a benefit from that Curse of the Leper. And the Khorngors, as well as the enemy Furies, actually really struggling. So typically halberds, like light halberds, do struggle against Fury units because they're infantry sized, which is very cool. Back objective is taken by Nurgle, and we do see Nurgle pulling a points lead, so they are at 1,000 points right here against 900 for their opponent. And Khorne did go for the back objective capture, but it is going to be run down by the Marauders and the Nurglings, and I think those Chaos Knights are not going to get it done. Plague Bears being called in on the backside. 1 Beast of Nurgle finally is going to be disintegrating here, but he had a good run. The Fury's just annihilating everything. I think that's probably going to be GG right here. I think that we are going to be seeing the Nurgle army just overwhelm. Khorne looking really, really out of steam here. And the Herald is on the run. Back objective was kind of a failed attempt here. And objective number 3 does go back to Khorne, but I mean, they're so bare bones on the battlefield. There's a couple horsemen, some very tattered infantry. And Nurgle still has a fair amount, right? They have all these Furies, they have all the horsemen here. The Beast of Nurgle and the Nurgle Lord himself is still in relatively good shape. His Plague Bearers are going to be reinforcing. But Boss Toss basically has one last hoorah here, which is going to be moving and trying to get a massive objective capture on objective 2. Now, these horsemen do have 4 capture weight apiece. Nurglings have 5, Plague Bears have 5, of course, so we're going to see how this goes. Fury's going to be Tokyo drifting across. Curse of the Slug from Nurgle is pretty good, allowing the Furies to close the distance a little bit quicker and potentially shut them down. And it looks like some Witchcraft is going to be cast here, as it is going to be Curse of the Leper, which even if it doesn't reflect too much damage or anything like that, it does trigger the lore passive of Nurgle, which is going to be healing the army. So Plague Bears are almost there, but we do see the Horsemen getting pushed off. On the side objective, the Beasts of Nurgle are taking the Herald to Pound Town a little bit. There are some Exalted Plague Bears there, and it looks like these Knights of the Brazen Throne going to be getting taken down by the Jolly Neckbeards here, so those guys getting it done. And man, so when I saw this replay live in the tournament, I was telling myself, I was like, there's absolutely no way that this build is going to work. This is a meme build. I thought Hobo Honkers was memeing it. But then he told me after the game, he was saying something along the lines of, yeah, Scrambled Egg used this and it worked, and I'm trying it now. And I mean, look, if something can work against Boss Toss and make it a competitive game, that's pretty big. So Nurgle's going to be cruising up, and of course Khorne was able to ninja this objective, but it's basically a desperation play, mostly horsemen. So Nurgle's going to be calling in Plague Bearers as well as Battletoads, and the Battletoads and the Plague Bearers will be able to overwhelm these Skull Reapers. And Khorne basically has no chance of getting this objective. A couple Marauders coming in, and it looks like Nurgle's going to be descending its Toad or Slug Legion over towards objective 1. And what are the columns going to be? Khorne sitting on 500 supplies, and the Battletoads going to be coming in here to clear out the infantry that are trying to get the capture weight. Khorne Gores zipping across, and over here towards objective 1, the old Beast of Nurgle moving back. Should be able to clear these units off. Each Beast of Nurgle also has 3 capture weight, so it's very tough to remove capture weight. Even though they have less than an infantry unit, infantry capture weight can be in flux because of the fact they lose models. Whereas the Beast of Nurgle is a perpetual 3 capture weight for a relatively cheap price point. I'm really interested to see if maybe there's going to be a meta for Beast of Nurgle in other matchups, like really difficult, cheap capture weight that regenerates. And there, the Herald of Khorne does get taken down by the 2 beasts, and he pays the troll toll for sure. So with that being said, we do see Nurgle taking its home objective again, and I'm sure they'll find a way to move across as another Beast of Nurgle is being summoned in here. Stream of Corruption being cast. I think he was trying to catch something. Must have been a misclick right there. A little bit hard to see, but with the leadership penalty, most of these Khorne units are on the precipice of breaking right here, and there's nothing on objective 3. Nurgle's going to be able to blitz out with their toads and everything and just get that, so that's got to be GG here as the game comes to its conclusion, and Boss Toss taps out. So that was wild as hell. I mean, I thought meme. I saw that. I thought meme build. It's not going to work. But it sure as hell worked, and it looked actually really strong. I mean, Boss Toss had a pretty nasty kiting build. The one thing I'd be curious about, like if Boss Toss had come in with Wrathmongers, would that have beaten these guys? Would the Wrathmongers have been able to tear apart the Beast of Nurgle? Because Wrathmongers, to me, are the hardest part of the matchup. Boss Toss didn't use too much. That's like really, I mean, everything was pretty good in his build, except, yeah, obviously Wrathmongers are the one thing that, as a Nurgle main, I have like nightmares of. I'm like, oh god, Wrathmongers. But he didn't bring those. So I would love to see this build get tested under the crucible of the Wrathmongers. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. GG, well played. The Beast didn't do anything crazy in terms of damage, but they did tank the Exalted Plague Bearers. Let's see what kind of damage they did. I know there's at least one of the mainline build, about 900. So yeah, nothing really crazy. The Brazen Throne Knights got 17, 500 on the Herald. Skull Cannon Arwar about paid for itself. Other Skull Cannon did good. Skull Reapers didn't do bad either. 1,600 and 1,200 right there. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this one. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you all on the other side.